Hey everyone, and welcome back. Let's talk about heat and how to pick the right heater for your RV. Alright friends, by now we have talked about heating hacks and what not to do and how to stay cozy. But let's get real. None of that matters if you're using the wrong kind of heater. There are propane, ceramic, your fireplace, your furnace. It's like speed dating for warmth. So today, let's break down the how to pick the right heater for your RV, what each one does the best, and how to keep things toasty without turning your rig into a sweaty sauna or worse, a safety hazard. Propane heaters, the classic choice. So let's start with Old Faithful, propane. Propane is awesome because they work even when you're boondocking or off grid. They give off dry, which is great, dry, steady heat, and they don't drain your batteries. Perfect for boondocking, right? Here's a big but. They eat through a lot more propane than you would think. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do need to do some looking at the burn time for your choice of a propane heater and how long it will run. There should be a chart located in the description of your propane, and on that unit it should give you an idea of the burn time to heat ratio, and that will help you in making a good decision on whether that particular unit is right for you, but also make sure that you have enough propane to get you through the next cold night. I know I keep saying this, but always crack a window and make sure that your CO2 detector is working properly. Propane is great, it's good clean energy, but you don't want your warm nap turning into a permanent one. Please be safe. Next up is the ceramic or electric heater. Small but mighty. These little guys are perfect for when you are plugged into shore power. They heat up small spaces fast and you can move them around wherever you need them. Use one with safety shutoffs and don't plug everything into the same outlet. If you trip a breaker, that is your clue that you are overloading that outlet. You either need to move that heater to a different outlet altogether or get a heavy duty cord for moving it to a different outlet. There are many different types of ceramic or electric heaters. Some look like miniature fireplaces, some are, countertop ones, some are the taller standing ones. I always recommend using one that has a safety shutoff. What is a safety shutoff? It means that if that heater falls over, there is usually a little small button on the bottom of the unit and it will trip. It has to be depressed for the unit to work. If the thing falls over, then it turns itself off. Obviously, it does take time to cool off, but it will not just keep running on its side. So they are great for safety. They are great for if you have pets running around or one gets knocked off the counter, they will turn themselves off. So a safety switch is extremely important when using these because the surface of them tends to stay very, very hot and can melt things. Make sure that there is clearance around them so that they're not touching anything that is plastic or the walls or your curtains, anything like that. But do make sure that you are not overloading your circuits with them, and make sure that you're being safe. Okay, let's talk about the RV furnace and why you should not ignore it. It is really the MVP that you probably don't give enough credit to. I know there are some folks who avoid using it because of the propane use, but here's the deal. Your furnace doesn't just heat the air. It also keeps your tanks and the underbelly and your pipes from freezing. So even if you mostly rely on electric heat, run your furnace occasionally. It's the difference between cozy pipes and frozen ones. Something that we do for ours, we have multiple kinds of heat in our RV. We live in a 35-foot travel trailer, and while we have not spent an extreme amount of time in extreme winter conditions, we have spent time in snow. We've spent time in freezing weather. We tend to have where the evenings get below freezing, but the daytime temperatures are above freezing. That's important, and we will talk about that further in other videos of the best ways to do that. But we like to use multiple kinds of heat sources in our RV, specifically because I don't like burning through all of the propane either. It heats my shower, it heats my hot water when I'm doing the dishes. It does run our propane stove, which I don't use very often, but it does burn through a lot. What I tend to do is turn my fireplace on, when we'll talk about that too, but I turn my fireplace on to a comfortable temperature setting. And then I also have a small ceramic heater that I plug in and turn that on low. Then I set my furnace to about 58 degrees. This is important because it helps you offset if my other heat sources are not keeping up. So my typical evening of running our fireplace on its preferred heat setting of 70 degrees, and then I will run a small ceramic heater to kind of help oscillate the air around even further. Those tend to keep my RV very toasty and warm. I also sleep with a heated blanket, but I tend to stay cold. If those are not keeping everything warm, then my furnace will kick on. It helps to dry out the air. That is important for keeping that condensation down. It also helps to boost the heat in my RV in case those other heat sources aren't keeping up. So while I will burn through some propane on a very cold night, I don't use it as my sole source of heat, so I don't burn through all of my propane. But I have learned a lesson by not using any propane and not keeping things warm enough, but also relying only on propane and running out in the middle of the night. Finding balance is truly key when fighting winter cold temperatures. Dehumidifiers, the secret hero. Here is the one thing that a lot of people tend to forget is your dehumidifier. Warm air plus cold windows equals condensation. That moisture can lead to mold and mildew and your whole RV smelling like a wet dog, feeling like a sauna, and running a small dehumidifier or using moisture absorbers keep things dry and makes your heat feel warmer. It's like giving your heater a power-up bonus. I get a lot of people asking the same questions over and over again. And a big one is, why is my window wet? Why do I have condensation on the inside of my door? And how do I get rid of it? The simple fact is you have way too much moisture in your RV. And in the wintertime, that is almost always caused by it being very cold on the outside, way too warm on the inside, and that air that is circulating around your RV is not dry enough. So if you find yourself having a lot of moisture, make sure that you are using an appropriately sized dehumidifier for your rig. They come in square footages, so make sure that you get one big enough for your rig. If you're in a camper van or a converted car, just run down and get yourself some absorbers. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can even get them at your local dollar store. They come in hang-up sized, or the little triangle ones that you just pull the tab off and put aside. But do make sure you are using some sort of absorbing agent or dehumidifier in your rig, along with using something that is going to dry out the air. So either propane or your furnace, something that's going to help dry out the air. It's super important. If you have too much condensation on your window, one of the biggest problems that you will end up with is that condensation has to go somewhere. And where it goes is down your window track and into your walls, which we all know leads to a great big problem with your insurance company later. Fireplaces, for looks or heat? I know we just touched on this, but let's get into it a little more. It is seemingly every manufacturer's favorite way to make us feel fancy in our RVs. But does it actually heat anything? Surprisingly, yes. They are great for taking off the chill in especially small areas like your living room and such, and making the area feel, that cozy cabin vibe. Don't just rely on them as your only heat source. They're more for ambiance than Arctic survival, but they are useful. Like I said before, they are, extremely useful for sort of offsetting the need for excess propane or excess heat. They tend to not help to dry out the air though, so do keep that in mind. I wouldn't rely on them solely as your only source of heating your RV. You need to dry out the heat in your the air in your RV for the winter. It is important, or you are going to develop some condensation. So crack a little air vent, crack a little window, and you can do like we do, which is turn on your RV fireplace. If it has a thermostat, then set the thermostat and have your secondary or even third RV heat source available to offset if your particular fireplace isn't keeping up. So there you have it, a quick full guide to picking the right RV heater for you. Whether it's propane for the power, electric for convenience, the furnace for protection or your pipes, or the fireplace for cozy vibes, and the dehumidifier for your sanity. If this helped you stay warm without breaking your breaker, then hit the like and subscribe, and share your favorite heating setup in the comments below. It's nice to be able to share these things and let other people know the best option for especially your kind of rig. Stay safe, stay cozy, stay warm, and remember, don't get frustrated. That's just RV life. See you in the next one.